Hello, this is Pete Mitchell from No More Kings, and you're listening to the Grawlix podcast.
Yeah, so we're here with Pete Mitchell from No More Kings. He also does. You do a brand new webcomic.
Yes, I just started a webcomic this year, the first of this year, called Critical Hit, based on one of my songs, actually. Weekly webcomic, sort of the Dungeons and Dragons related, I guess. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It made me think of Zelda, I think.
Zelda? It has definitely a Zelda vibe. You're right about that. Probably because it's like my character has a giant head and tiny boots.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's what all adventurers need, really, at least to start.
Large head, tiny boots, and then somebody's like, take this sword, it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, it's going to be dangerous. Take this.
And it's good if there's fireballs.
The fireballs are coming in my webcomic, absolutely.
So I guess we can kick part of this off by way of, this is going to be a backwards way to start an interview, but I kind of want to ask Jesse, because Jesse introduced me to the wacky world of Pete Mitchell.
It's a wacky one, isn't it?
So Jesse, how did you get into Pete Mitchell's stuff? Like, where did you discover him? And that might be a good starting place to get Pete talking about some of his things. Yeah.
I don't know how common it is, but I imagine it's pretty common that people are introduced to No More Kings via Sweep the Leg. Is that fair to say?
That's the most common way, yeah.
And, being a martial artist for the last 23 years, Sweep the Leg was definitely on my radar. And but once I delved into the No More Kings universe, I was hooked by all of it. I've got one of your zombie prints up in my office. I just dig all your projects, video. I mean, like you dip into a little bit of everything. You've got fine art, you've got animation. Now you're doing comic style art, which we're kind of doing anyways. And do you have a background in that? Did I read that somewhere?
Yeah, I that's what I actually got my degree in. So I went to a small liberal arts school in New England, and I got an art degree. So I studied painting really, and I fully expected to like try to be a fine artist, like having shows in galleries and stuff. And then like that just, I don't know, it just wasn't my vibe. And so I moved to Los Angeles and started working just some really cool places doing computer art. So I worked for the Jim Henson Company making Muppet video games, and I worked for Disney working on Disney video games, and started really getting into this really cool world of interactive art at that time. And so music was always this thing that I kind of did on the side that I loved equally. Like I can never separate music from art. Those two things are the same for me. But it just seemed that most of my paying gigs early on were art related, and then that switched with No More Kings when in 2006 or 7 or whenever that was, when that became my focus. And then I was doing that for a while, and then luckily, you're talking about doing the cartoon style art now with Critical Hit, the webcomic, and doing kind of these cutesy zombies and all that stuff. That was really lucky for me to be able to bring my art back into music. It seemed that the people that dug No More Kings also started digging that artwork too. So I was really psyched that I didn't have to separate those things,
Yeah. Well, the artwork for the CDs, do you do all of that?
Yeah. And I was really lucky that my label let me do that. A lot of record labels would be like, no, we have somebody that does that. You're not going to do that, But they were like, no, that's part of your vibe, so go for it.
And they're beautiful. The interior artwork is fantastic. So
thank you.
Can we talk about the webcomic a little bit? Because
absolutely. I
mean, I guess that's a good stepping stone into tabletop stuff. So I'm guessing you have a bit of history with D&D.
Absolutely. I have a couple of funny stories, I guess, about that, and maybe I'll get to those a little bit later. But I played D&D. I mean, not from when it came out. I think I wasn't. When did it come out? 79, something like that. Like
some in the 70s, I believe.
So so I was born in 73. So I was pretty young when it first came out. But by the time it picked up steam and became kind of a thing that people were doing, yeah, people were banning it. Like kids my age were like killing themselves because their character died and they would commit suicide. And so parents were freaking out. Everybody was like, no, there's no way I'm letting my kids play it. So it was at this time that my mom was like, oh, that sounds fun. She buys me the whole set.
Nice.
my first Dungeon. So like that says a lot about my relationship with my mom. And then, yeah, I just fell in love with it because I had never, I always played, I always read Choose Your Own Adventure books. And then as soon as personal computers, I got the first Commodore VIC-20, got the, and then the 64 and then 128 after that. So I was always playing like Zork and any of those text adventures that were sort of like the, computer equivalent. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So they were like the computer equivalent of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. So working through, the history of interactive fiction, D&D just felt like such a great extension of that, but in a way that stuff couldn't even do. Like if I were going to make a decision as a character in a Choose Your Own Adventure book, it has to be one of the choices listed here and I have to flip to my page, right? If I'm going to make a decision in a, text adventure, it has to be something that the programmer thought of. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to make a decision in D&D, it could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. Mm-hmm. And then the Dungeon Master has to sort of respond to that. So it's this beautiful kind of intersection of storytelling and improvisation, basically. And I fell in love with that. So I played for years, and then I moved. And when you become an adult and you move away from your friends, it becomes impossible to play. I know there are new developments now with like Roll D20, and I did end up playing for a charity event recently. I was the celebrity guest.
Awesome!
Nice. I know. Yes. Yeah. Right. And that was super fun. But that was the first time I'd played D&D. In years and years. Anyway, I don't play anymore, mostly because that was such a thing that you had to be around those people for, and I've moved away from all that. But I'm still very nostalgic about it, and I still, I play every version of the Elder Scrolls, hoping that it'll feel more like D&D to me, and it's there, but it's not quite there.
You were saying earlier you worked on video games.
Yes,
it's come up before with people we've talked to. Do you think that creating like an interactive, more like a game, I suppose, like a game that's like an interactive comic book that like you're telling the story, but that people can actually interact with it, and you could have the art and the music and the story all kind of come together? Is that something that you would be interested in?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, you sort of hit the nail on the head of exactly that, that ultimate version of that interactive comic. Weirdly, Critical Hit, that webcomic, was a video game first. It started off, I had the opportunity to work for almost 2 years on an iPad. Basically, it was going to be like a Zelda-style open-world role-playing game based on the song Critical Hit, but, developing this world that way with that little lead PD character running around with a big sword. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the project got canceled, so I never got to see it finalized, and I think that company is gone now. But yeah, it stinks. But for that amount of time, I developed just hundreds and hundreds of pages of stories for these characters that and then anyway, yes. So kind of what you're saying, it was more straight up role playing game than it was a interactive version of a comic strip. So I'm kind of going backwards at that. So where I'm at now is that's why I decided to make the Critical Hit strip. I was sad about how all that content was never going to be seen by people. And I thought, well, this is the best I can do on my own as a way to tell those stories again, is I'll present them as a webcomic. Mm-hmm. But Melanie, you're right. Like, I think what would be awesome is to take that to the next step of doing the things that I love, which is making music, making animation, bringing these characters to life, and then letting the audience sort of play it and choose it and sort of, make some decisions. I definitely will explore that on my own.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the comic book, or the webcomic, well, same thing, does well, and then get a push for it from the audience.
Exactly.
Is there any plans to eventually turn Critical Hit into a book?
Absolutely. It's funny that you say that. Man, you guys are awesome. It's like, you're like the things that are already in my head. is this really happening, or is this just me having a schizophrenic episode?
That's not the first time we've heard that either.
Imagine the guess that you guys get must have. So yes, I think the great thing about doing a webcomic, I hesitated for a long time because I know I'm very short-term obsessive, which means I dive into a project and I give it 100%. I dive in head first, and then I get distracted by some other shiny thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then and maybe that's everybody, but like I suffer from that a lot. And then I abandon the thing. So I was really afraid to start this webcomic that I knew inevitably I was going to lose steam on. And I thought, well, the only way to sort of hedge my bets is to make, the first 10 weeks up front. And so I just, locked myself in my apartment and just did water. And at first it was watercolor. I'm doing it on my iPad now because I ran out of the watercolor ones. But my initial thing was I was going to hand draw everything, watercolor. Every panel would be like a painting, basically, and then do the text in Photoshop. And there we go. I've caught up now to where I'm out of the stuff the buffer I gave myself. So next week, this coming Friday will be the first strip that I have to make from scratch now. I'm out of material. I'm a little petrified because this is exactly where I would lose steam normally. So to your point, the reminder that I want this to eventually end up being a book is what's going to keep me pushing through that, because I need this to go a full year. I need to do, I need to have 52 strips. And then at the end of that, and at the end of 2016, see if that makes a nice book.
Awesome. Yeah. I did a webcomic called Tank Monkey.
Cool.
Tankmonkeycomic.com, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a monkey that drives a tank. So I totally understand what you're saying about the buffer. You should give yourself.
You have the same problem?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And it's one of the reasons. Tankmonkeycomic.com.
There it is. Oh, this is great. Sorry, the first page is a candy corn, and I'm a huge fan of candy corn. So.
Oh, are you? Maybe stop reading. that candy
bad
corn.
Things happen to this candy corn.
Candy corn is not a favorable character.
Jesse is not a fan of candy corn, so he makes it a villain.
He's kind of a villain. He's kind
I
of.
love how you're working through your issues through your comic strip.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
I think we are. I think you're right. What would Freud say?
Yeah. So I know exactly what that problem feels like. In that you have that buffer. You worked really hard, and now I'm butting up against an update, and now I'm going to work until 2 a.m. to get it out.
Exactly. And is that what you did? Did you just push through it, or did you end up missing some deadlines?
Well, both. The answer is all of the above. Yeah. And I did get at least one book out, and I have enough content to put out a second book, but I'm on a hiatus because, I really relate to this idea that you're kind of a multi-passionate person that gets drawn into these different projects, because I have the same problem. I'm a martial arts instructor. I'm an elementary art teacher. I want to make a web comic. I want to podcast with these guys. There's only so many hours in a day, and I want to do it all now.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing is it sounds like you're doing most of that. So it doesn't sound like a problem to me so far. It sounds like you've got it figured out.
Well, I won't claim that, because if I did have it figured out, I'd just write that book.
True. Then you can make money from all these interests.
Wait, that leads me into a question that I actually had, and that is, kind of the self-help guru manifesto right now is focus. Focus on this one thing.
Wow.
And really hit it. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because that is not how I roll. That is not how I function. I couldn't do it. I'd be like, okay, but I really, really want to do that other thing.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to do this thing. I don't anymore. It's not fun anymore.
It's not new and shiny.
That thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what would you do if someone was like, you have to give up martial arts and you have to focus? I mean, you can't.
I don't know. I couldn't. And I have lots of people depending on me in that field. So it's I've even thought about that, and it's no. And that's my physical outlet. I have lots of outlets for different reasons, and that's my physical one. So yeah,
That's a really good way to describe that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, what do you think about that? Like, how do you reconcile these things? I guess.
Well, this is a really interesting sort of serendipitous time to bring that up. I've had sort of an epiphany lately that is along those exact lines. So I've realized that my entire life I've been very scattered. I enjoy too many different things. I'm passionate about a bunch of different things. Everything I see inspires me. So if I watch a really cool movie, I come home and I want to make a movie. You know what I mean? Like whatever I've just ingested, that's the thing I'm most passionate about and I want to make. And maybe, whether we know it or not, that's how all art works. I think all art on some level is a reaction to something that we've taken in, and then we process it through our filter, and then we do our version of that. Not literally, but on some level. We're making web comics because we've read comics growing up, and so we're responding to that somehow. The idea of focus, you're right, that's sort of the thing now, that's the mantra, and that has become my new mantra too. But what I'm realizing is that doesn't mean focus on one outlet. That doesn't necessarily mean focus on one genre or one media type. So in your case, that doesn't mean stop doing martial arts and only do the webcomic. But it does mean you have to start eliminating some distractions and eliminating some things that aren't really helpful. And focusing, for me, means focusing down to what is my unique point of view? What's the thing that makes me that no one else has, basically? And it's a combination of things, right? It's if someone becomes a fan of No More Kings, they're essentially becoming a fan of the same stuff I'm a fan of. So they're becoming they already are a fan of zombie movies. They're a fan of sci-fi. They're a fan of kung fu films. They're a fan of Bruce Lee. They're a fan of the Karate Kid. They're a fan of all this stuff already. And so when they find out that there's this guy writing music about this stuff, hopefully they go, oh, that ticks all my boxes. I'm into this now. So I guess what I'm saying is there are millions of better singers than me. There are millions of better songwriters than me. But what all those people don't have is my perspective and my point of view. And the same with you. Like, you're writing this webcomic the way that you write it because of your point of view, because you passionately dislike candy corn, or whatever that is. So I would take focus to not mean focus on one thing. I would take focus on focusing on you, the best version of you, and what that means. And it might mean slowing down some of those other areas that you think you're doing for other people. You said there's a lot of people counting on you with martial arts. That's awesome. That's a great reason to do something. But once you start digging into what that is, what you're here for, what is your unique fingerprint that only you have, it might mean altering that, or maybe handling that in a different way, or just giving that a different space so that you can focus on the core of you, whatever you find out that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel so
introspective now. That's not good for podcasting.
No. I'm different.
Well, it's just interesting because, like I said, the serendipity of this is I recently got really into a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Do you guys know who he is?
I've heard that name.
Okay, he's huge. He started this thing in the early days of YouTube called Wine Library TV, which was like just a way for people to learn more about wine. Like people that didn't really know about that stuff, and it grew into this millions of subscribers. And so then what he noticed about himself was it wasn't wine that he was passionate about. It was business, selling, relationships, like telling that story. So he went on to become like kind of a social media guru, and he would consult with other companies to kind of help them get a better YouTube presence or a Twitter presence or a Snapchat presence or whatever was going on. So I've been super into him because, for the same reason, basically that thing I just told you, his whole point is you have to find out what is that thing that only you can do or say, what's that unique perspective that you bring, and then just drill that, do that thing all the time and produce the best quality content you can in that realm consistently, share it, and just rinse and repeat, just repeat that cycle. So what that is doing for me is it made me realize up till now I've been extremely scattered about how I just like, hey, I did painting and I posted, or hey, I did a little animation, I posted. And I'm always like throwing stuff up online, and that's cool because what I've realized is consistent about me is that I'm always making stuff, and that's fun. But I decided that I'm ready to be a little more directed and focused about that stuff. And so, for example, how this manifests for me is I just finished writing and recording 3 solo albums. They're my first solo albums that I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like kind of nervous and excited. I'm super nervous because I don't know that everybody who likes No More Kings is going to necessarily like what I'm doing for solo stuff.
Oh, right,
so,
right.
Yeah. Like any kind of time you switch lanes, you're going to maybe lose some people. But I'm super excited because of the way that I'm able to focus on it and the speed at which I'll be able to put content out, having removed the barriers and making sure that it's just me now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so my thing that I'm focusing on now is putting those albums out and then surrounding them with all the other stuff I love, which is high quality music videos that are animated and cool and interesting, then artwork that surrounds the theme of the album, and then maybe making an art book, that goes along with that has like some photos and some stills and some sketches and, just basically doing all. So it's still scattered, right? But it's contained scattered because I'm still letting myself, be a bit of a schizophrenic and explore all these areas. But it's all based around the album that I'm releasing. And then when that's done, 3 months later, I make another one. And again, I'm at the very beginning of this, so who knows? Check back in a year and I'll tell you if it worked or not. But
well, we'll be watching too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
No, it sounds exciting. And you have 3 already in the can?
I've got 3 ready to go. I'm working with some musician friends of mine here in Las Vegas to get the first one. So here's what happened. I went through this crazy spurt. In the past, I would only write music when No More Kings was releasing an album. So my writing partner Neil would call me up and he'd be like, hey, it's time to do another album. I'd fly to Kentucky where he lives. And for a couple months we'd write and record. And then that was it. I wouldn't make any more music. That album would come out. So basically every 2 or 3 years I would have a focused period of songwriting and I wouldn't do any songwriting in between. And I thought that stinks. I don't want to do that. I want to get back into a habit of writing music all the time,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what anyway, a bunch of things changed in my life at once. I broke up with the girl that I was dating. I moved from LA to Vegas. Like a lot of things changed at once. And I just felt this like spurt of energy. And I just cranked out these 3 albums in like a very short period of time in demo form, meaning I wrote them, recorded them in Logic, and, they're ready to go. They're not like studio quality yet. So that's where the next step becomes, which is what I'm doing now, which is taking all those demos and recording them properly.
Uh-huh.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Sure.
So yeah. So when I say the 3 albums are done, they're not done, ready to release, but they're written and demoed. Like they're at that level.
Just needs a polish and a spit shine.
Just needs a little spit.
There's an alarming amount of spit in every album that you get. Consumers beware.
I really like the focusing thing because, well, first of all, you all amaze me anyway because I get interested in things and then I like make birthday cards or like write a 7-page backstory for my freaking D&D character, that is unnecessary and no one will ever see any of these things. And that's what I do. You guys are like making actual art and putting it out in the world. And so all of you already, congratulations for being amazing people there. But if I could take all these other things that I'm interested in and have them all streamlined into one like idea, I might actually make something that's, that I could share with people.
It sounds like you're already doing it though. Maybe it's just a matter of, yeah, exactly, taking that to the next step. If you're spending all that time creating a really cool backstory for your character, then you're already storytelling. You're already doing the work. The next step would be, put that up. Start putting the ongoing story. Tell the stories of your character that led up to the campaign that you're in now, or tell the ongoing story of the campaign from the perspective of your character, whatever that is. But I think that sounds like you're already doing it. There's just one more step that you need to take that lets it become something that you're sharing now and that other people can give feedback on. And then so when I finish a painting or when I finish an album, there's this phase that we call releasing it, right? Like you release an album. And I love that phrase because to me, that's like you've nurtured this animal back to health and you are literally releasing it into the wild. It's not yours anymore, right? When I finish an album, it's not mine anymore. I give it out and then it's it's the audiences, and then they listen to it, they consume it, and they respond to it. And how they respond to it is actually going to affect the next thing that I do. So anyway, I think this sounds like the next step for all these things that you're doing is to just get something and release it, and then let that dialogue start happening. You'll be amazed at how productive you're going to find yourself once you let that become a habit.
Well, and like releasing a small animal into the wild, it can be dangerous. It's going to be scary.
Yeah,
it's going to be scary, but it'll also be fantastic to see your animal swinging through the trees.
Exactly.
Soaring on the breeze.
Throwing his own feces.
Yeah.
Doing the stuff that animals do. Yeah. Jesse, did you feel that way when you finally released Tank Monkey into the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. It's all of you are saying. It's frightening because it's like I really, I key into this character. This character is obviously part of me. He's a really snarky, angry part of me, unfortunately, but he's kind of funny too. So there was that. You kind of wait and see what are the things that people really key into. And so why did candy corn become a big thing? Well, yeah, it was a little rant that I threw, but then people responded to it. Like, there's a lot of people out there that don't like candy corn, Pete. I just want
I guess
no offense, but there are a lot of people.
I don't want to think that's my favorite type of candy.
It's clear Jesse has strong feelings about this.
Well,
he's tapped into something.
I think Tank Monkey has even stronger feelings than me, because at a certain point, Tank Monkey, even though he's like a part of me, he's like a different character. He's himself too,
Mm-hmm.
Well, this reminds me of something. So who's your favorite character collectively, all three of you guys? Who's your favorite characters on The Walking Dead? Who would you say your favorite character is?
In the TV show, or?
The TV show, not the comic. I'm sorry, the TV show, which I know is a different thing entirely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I'm asking this, by the way.
I gotta go Rick.
Really?
Yeah.
Daryl,
Oh, okay.
and that's why
Cool.
I had to ask specifically which one, because Daryl rocks.
Yeah.
But he's not in the
Okay.
comic.
Mm-hmm.
I like TV series Dale.
Oh,
I always liked Dale, and I was really bummed when he left the show.
Yeah,
so.
I was a huge Dale fan too. So Melanie, you hit the point of what I was asking Matt for, and the reason that there's a difference there. So Daryl is not even a character in the comic, really, or I think he appears once and then is gone, right? Like, he's not a big part of the comic,
Right?
Yeah.
But obviously, the fans responded to Norman Reedus, and there's something about that character.
Mm-hmm.
And he took on a life of his own. So similar to what you experienced, Jesse, with the candy corn. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about that, and that's why you need to release it to the wild. If they had just trusted like what their original plan was, Daryl would have showed up for his one episode and then been gone, and we would have missed what are we in season 6 now? 6 seasons of is it 6 or 5?
I think we're on 6 now.
Yeah,
I think
6. Yeah, so we would have missed, and he's been around for all of that, and he wouldn't have been around for any of that. So just interesting things happen when you open yourself up to that, when you let this thing that you have been, this is your baby, basically, that you've been cooking up your baby. Did I just say that? Oh, Lord. If you guys take just sound bites, you can make me sound like a very strange person. So anyway, this idea that you've hatched, and then you released it, and then it takes on another life, and then you respond to that. So that is a very exciting thing that can only happen once you let the audience in on it. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't have Daryl.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm curious about some of the projects that you've started and kind of just let go of.
Oh no!
Well, okay, so like found object theater.
Oh no!
That's one of my favorite things, and
man. Jesse, I love you, dude.
well, I'm just curious. Like those are just like super fun little projects. How do you feel about those when they either do or don't take off?
Wow, this is. I'm gonna cry.
Well, that's not my goal, but
I know this is the Oprah moment for me though, where you make me cry on film. So okay, there have been a couple. There've only been a few failures in my life that there's tons of failures, but usually you learn from them, you move on, and so I don't consider them failures because you got something from them. But there are these three major things that have happened in my life that I've had trouble letting go of. The first was the collapse of my record label, because I really felt like our second album should have been bigger than our first album. We should have done like really amazing music videos that were on par with the Sweep the Leg video. And our record label just didn't have the stamina financially to stay in the game long enough. So it collapsed, and that was a huge disappointment to me. Second was Critical Hit. The game version of that was supposed to be this amazing, I was always looking in the App Store for turn-based RPGs on the iPad, because I thought, what a great format for that, where I can actually click and drag my character, put my archer over here, have him get ready to go, put my magician behind this. You know what I mean? Like, so I wanted to make that game and worked on it for 2 years, and then it collapsed as well. The third one is Found Object Theater.
Oh,
That was one of my favorite things I've ever come up with. And I was working with a company called Wild Brain. They did the show Yo Gabba Gabba for kids, Yo Gabba Gabba. So we shot a pilot with extremely talented cast of people. It was Rich Summer, who is in the show Mad Men. He's one of the leads in the show Mad Men. Was my co-star, basically. So I played, Gary the Sponge, and he played Hank the Little Razor, and we had this great relationship. He was always picking up women, and I was always, single, and he's always trying to get me to be his wingman, but I was anyway, really funny stuff, and everything that you do was like a lollipop or like a soap bottle, or, all the characters were just found objects. And we ended up cutting this like 11-minute, and anyway, similarly, that just dissolved. It just went away. And yeah, so I'm at this point where these things keep happening, and I'm coming to a place now where I realize that that's okay. The fact that I even had those opportunities is exciting and way cooler than anything that would have happened to me 20 years ago. So just by virtue of having these opportunities to fail means things are going well and moving forward. So I don't think I'm done with Found Object Theater. I think I will, just like I found a way to revive Critical Hit through the webcomic, I'm going to find a way to do something with that idea, whether it's literally with the footage that I shot, because some of that was extremely funny, or whether it's new stuff. One way or another, you have not seen the last of Found Object Theater.
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy that makes me.
Oh, good.
Because just the snippets you have on Vimeo are incredible.
Oh, thanks, man. It's weird. It's so good to hear this, because, part of my problem with being so scattered is I make a bunch of stuff that I think cool, and then I put them out there, and then I don't know. I don't always hear, I don't always hear the response of what people dug. And so it's really good to know that you found that interesting, that was something that you wanted to see, that other people might actually enjoy that. It reminds me, like, yeah, I need to get back on that. That's worth doing.
That's the internet for you. It's like some things really take off and you get a lot of response, and then other things, for one reason or another, just no one ever hears about it. It's like being in an ocean, and you could be on this little raft, and you're screaming, but there's no helicopters that day.
Yeah, exactly. The helicopters are over somebody else's raft.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way to look at it. I think one of my favorite things about living now is the fact that we have the internet as our distribution platform now. That's something that 20 years ago, people just didn't have access to that. So everything had to be done differently. And the way that bands became bands that you knew about, that machine, the way that movies got made, that machine, the way television shows got made, the way any content got made was a completely different paradigm. And then the internet came out, and now people like us, the four of us, each of us have the exact same ability to make something go huge as any of those things. We each have our own channel, basically, online, and all that we need now is talent. We have to be good at what we're doing, and then an audience. And usually you do have the one and you'll get the other. It might be a slow build, but again, that's something we never could do in the past. So I'm super excited about living now. But having said that, to your analogy about the sea, the downside of that is it is a giant freaking ocean.
Yeah.
And how do you cut? The signal to noise ratio is such that how do you find the good stuff amidst all of that? If everybody is out there making stuff, and not everybody deserves that attention. Not everybody is talented, unfortunately, or they're trying the wrong things. They haven't figured out really what it is that their talent is, and they're forcing something that they're not particularly good at. One way or another, there's a lot of bad content.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Plus, people are weird. Someone can spend a lot of time working on something really hard, and it's good. And then instead, they watch a video of someone getting their head shaved. And it's strange.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. Well, what was it? There's some YouTube channels like we were watching. Oh, what was it? The Neebs guys.
Mm.
They were doing this fantastic Duralius and Associates.
Yeah.
It was this fantastic animated series on YouTube. I hope they plan on making more seasons, where it's kind of like, it's a comedy, but it's kind of like a fantasy thing. It's something that I think both Jesse and Pete would enjoy.
Everyone does.
It's in that. Well, it's in that wheelhouse. But they've launched another channel, Neebs Gaming, where they play video games, like a lot of other channels do. And I've heard them talk about on that channel all the work they've put into their animated series, because they've done a couple.
Mm.
And the Neebs Gaming channel of just them playing video games blows it away by far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely, I mean, if you're channeling a lot of work into a thing, it can be frustrating for sure to be like,
mm-hmm.
or you could just do what everybody else is doing and get,
Yeah.
Now, you're right about that, and I guess that drills down to what are you trying to achieve? If your 100% goal is just to get a big audience, then you got to do whatever the popular thing is.
Yeah.
That might be Twitch streaming. But if you ask yourself honestly what your real goal is, and hopefully it's not that, because that's sort of an empty goal.
Mm-hmm.
If your honest goal is because you want to make a connection with people that like the stuff that you're making, then you're going to be happy with a smaller audience. I think I have recently made that discovery. I think I always knew that about myself, but I got caught up in some of the stuff. Sweep the Leg came out and kind of blew up, virally.
Sure.
It went all over the place. Yeah. And, we're talking about, that was back when views mattered. I'm glad we're past that now, because like you said, somebody getting their head shaved or a monkey smelling its own finger, getting millions of views on a YouTube video is not necessarily an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
And also that happens, and then people move on to the next thing, and then move on to the next thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to keep seeing what you do. So if we eliminate that for a minute, and I'm glad that bubble needed to burst. It was like the housing market almost, that had to happen.
Yeah.
An inflated sense of people's attention. So now what we're left with is you have the option to do something that you're extremely passionate about, that you're very good at, and keep doing it at the best quality you can. Keep pushing yourself and keep putting stuff out consistently. You'll be we just need 1,000 people. You just need 1,000 people to give a crap about what you're doing, and you can kind of make a living on that. If each of those 1,000 people bought that one anthology book of the webcomic when it came out at the end of the year, and that was $30, and now you just made $30,000 that year, then everything else you did was the commercial for that thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of live on that. So maybe, and if you can't, then you make adjustments to your lifestyle so that you can, or offer more stuff, or grow, whatever. There's options, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the core of that is be honest about what you are passionate about and what you're trying to put out there. Don't get caught up in the kind of cash grab or the land grab for views and people and audience. One of the reasons I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier is his philosophy is exactly that. His philosophy is that width, the number of followers, is meaningless if you don't have any depth. If you can tweet out to 6 million people about your new book and none of them buy it, then how did that help you to have 6 million people?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you can tweet out to 200 people that are actual fans, that actually dig what you're doing, and 100 of them go buy your book for $30, you just cover the cost of that print run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sage.
Anyway.
Sage advice.
So if I could get 200 people now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's exactly right, though. That's not insurmountable. 200 people in this great big internet, 200 people to care about what you're doing. That's
true.
That's measurable. You can get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that would be great and all. But I'm pretty sure for at least Randall and Jesse, even if no one ever looked, they couldn't help but just keep creating things because.
Oh yeah, I do things all the time.
Yeah,
I did things for
That's
years.
the most important thing.
Without internet connection at all. I just made things for you. Nobody saw any of it.
That decade when you lived on the island?
Yeah. Yeah.
There were no helicopters that day.
That's a good analogy. No, I think, Melanie, that's a huge point. You have to figure that out for yourself. Like, what is that thing that you are compelled to do? I can't stop writing songs. I can't stop making art. I would do that whether anybody cared. I like that people care. That helps me and that motivates me and that helps to drive the momentum that lets me make more stuff.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. If no one cared, I'd still do it because that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And likewise with the stuff that you guys do. I mean, yeah, when you have found that thing that you simply can't stop doing, that's huge. That's the big first step. And then the next step is make sure you're doing that at the best quality you can do it. Constantly look for ways to improve yourself. Be consistent about how you share that stuff. And a fan base is inevitable at that point. It's just a matter of letting that grow slowly and honestly, and being happy with the slow growth and the fact that these are legitimate people that care about what I'm doing, not this huge bump of people that are going to move on to the next thing in a week.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Just letting.
Yeah, I hope I'm not trying to be like. Yeah, I'm actually extremely excited about that. Like that notion is what gets me up in the morning. Like that's what makes me go, all right, time to work. Like this is such an exciting time where we can. I mean, I don't have to work at Burger King or Kinko's anymore. I don't have to wash dishes. I don't have to do the things I had to do in college to make money. Like I can make yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can do that if we want to, but like, what an exciting time that we can honestly find something that we are so passionate about and so like that revs our engine and find other people that also dig that thing. And then, do you guys know about the site? I'm sure you do, Jesse. Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, of course you do, Jesse. That's how we.
That's how we connected. Yeah,
that's how we connected. Yeah, that's a great example of where the future is going. The idea that you can connect 100% to your fan base directly, and they are then finding some way to support what you're doing. I think when Kickstarter first came out, it got a bit of not a bad rap, but like I stayed away from Kickstarter for a long time because it always felt like fundraising felt like begging, like doing a car wash on the weekend to pay for your trip to Mexico. Like it just didn't feel right. And I think Patreon had that risk, but for some reason Patreon doesn't feel that way to me. And Kickstarter doesn't anymore either. And I hope they both do really well because I like the philosophy of I'm going to make this thing all the time, and here's how you can be part of that. It lets people be part of the conversation, lets people be part of the thing that you're doing. And in the case of like, do you have one, Jesse? Do you have one for?
I don't have one yet. I've been.
You should
considering
make one for Tank Monkey. Yeah, you should make one. I'll back it.
Oh, hey.
And I will tell people to back it. But no, the point is, yeah, when you're doing that, then when you offer the book, that's the value. So like a Kickstarter or a Patreon becomes the pre-order for that thing. It's not in any way donation based. They're not giving something for nothing. You know what I mean? Right. I think that's the misconception. And I think people like us, independent content creators, can help to change that misconception and get towards a place where I believe in the future, I believe 10 years from now, there's going to be a ton of streams like that. There will be a ton of places like that where people are making a living off the thing that they're super psyched about putting into the world,
And there's so many things that I wish worked in a way where I could look at things and be like, this is what I like, and I want to give my money to this. I don't have to pay for this, all this stuff that I'm not interested in. I want to be able to be like, this is good. I want more of this. I want to make this be what it's going to, instead of like with TV or something. Say there's a show that you watch, you pay for your cable, and and then it gets canceled because not enough people watched it. But that was what I wanted. That was what it was. You know, I'm paying for.
Yeah. If you could have put your money directly into that show versus to cover the overhead of it. And that's actually happening, which is very exciting. We're moving away from cable network. You'd have to sign up for an entire cable package just to be able to watch Game of Thrones. Like, that's changing. You can just sign up for HBO. It's still there because you still have to sign up for HBO. But eventually that's going to come down to where you're, I mean, I don't watch TV that way. I buy a season and then I watch it after midnight. So so Walking Dead, for example, has already aired or is airing now.
Oh yeah.
Soon.
I think it's
am I making you guys miss it? Hope not.
Oh no, I'll catch it. I catch it later.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I watch it tomorrow anyways. Yeah.
Okay, that's the same thing. So that's what I'm getting
same
at.
model. Yep.
Now, I think that's I think that's a lot of people are in that boat. And I think what's exciting about that is that should be telling the networks, that's better than a Nielsen rating. You know, like, we're literally buying this thing. Like, we're paying $30 or whatever ahead of time for the season, and we're going to watch it the next day after it airs. Pretty soon we won't have to wait because they'll work out better deals with that kind of thing. But yeah, I think Melanie, I think it is going that direction where you're going to pay directly for the thing that you want. And I mean, there's a benefit to the old model in the sense that, you know, you can help cover the cost of something that maybe the network believes in, but maybe doesn't have the traction yet. Then you have mistakes too, like a show like Firefly getting canceled, you know, things like that. Like, that shouldn't happen, you know, and that wouldn't happen under the new kind of way things are going, because enough people would have demonstrated that they want that.
Right. And that's again, sorry, going back to the thing, but with the internet helping, because it's already like that for a lot of like musicians, more than anyone else I can think of, maybe, where, you know, you don't have to necessarily go through a big label and studio and all this to get your music out.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of cutting out the middleman when you can work directly, and then it ties in. It works both ways, because it's like you were saying, giving money to that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the cool thing about that is, I think the reason we're getting such pushback about this change, there is a whole, you know, slice of society that has made their living on that old model. You know what I mean? They need Beyonce to be huge because they're all counting on that, right? Whereas these days, a band like Pomplamoose can come along and they don't need to be huge. They don't need to be a household name. They just need, you know,
Patreon.
Yeah, they just need Patreon. Well, yeah, that doesn't work. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, so I guess the reason I say that is, it's important. Those things existed in the past because the machine made that possible, right? Like, the reach was bigger, so the fan base was bigger, so everybody's cut was bigger, and there were tons of content. I was going to say, but not content creators, I guess, that didn't make it because they were shelved because they decided to put their funds into somebody else. And in the modern landscape, that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody gets sort of equalized. Fewer people are the Beyonce level, and more people are the Pomplamoose level. And I'm interested in that future. I'm interested in a future where, like, it kind of what you're going back, what you were saying before, Melanie. I feel that way about taxes. Like, I would love to choose where my taxes are going rather than just playing with that thing. You know, I would like, yes, I'll give this much to schools, this much to roads, this much to this, you know. Similarly, I think that we all vote with our dollar for content. We get to say, these are the bands that I'm interested in. These are the movies that I've enjoyed. These are this is the type of food I vote for. Like, we do that as consumers by consuming and paying to consume that stuff. And finally, the infrastructure is catching up to that model, to where that's possible. And so, yeah, I'm curious about how that's going to affect the giant mega level, you know, because everybody's complaining about nobody's buying music, but who does it really affect?
I'm kind of glad and kind of not, because I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but you hear stories about older musicians that are touring still and are broke because they never got any of the money from the music that they make. And exactly, and it makes me sad, but they, you know, then again, they're not going to, people who don't go through, you know, a label and whatever, aren't going to have as much potential to earn that money in the first place, even if they weren't going to get it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
exactly.
Yeah, it's that double-edged sword where, they the going through. I mean, because essentially you're working with a corporation at that point. You're not going to have the resources that you're not going to have that corporation backing you, but you're also dealing with a corporation whose goal is to save as much money as possible, and they will put you into. I mean, they've got lawyers to draw all kinds of loopholes up.
But it's also kind of the same with just being creative and then having a fan base, because I can be creative with any random thing, but if I had, I don't have a specific thing that I do anyway, but if I had fans, then I'd have money to do it better.
Do more,
and not even the money, just the power you have. So the commodity now isn't necessarily money, it's people's attention. And if you can demonstrate that you have the ability to capture people's attention, that becomes the new driving force. So you're right. Building a fan base of any size is really the important thing. That's the new currency,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's some crazy stuff happening in a lot of good ways. I definitely, it's interesting how you talk about that old model and how these guys are like 80s bands are still touring now to, be able to afford their houses because they were in such crappy deals that they didn't make anything off of it for so long. And how is that better or worse than people now complaining about not getting paid for being on Spotify? Yeah, it's interesting. So being on a label for a couple of years and then having it collapse, I see, and it was a small label, so I never experienced anything giant, but I got to see both sides of, so for example, the Sweep the Leg video came out. Now that cost the label $500,000 to make. That was an expensive video. It was basically a short film. It was basically the budget of making a short film. Now that I'm solo, I am not going to be able to spend $500,000 on a video.
Yeah. Right.
So I have to become creative. I have to do it myself. I have to figure out, creative ways of working with friends and owing people favors and, doing that kind of thing. So there's pros and cons, obviously, to both systems. I had a lot more resources when on a label, but I had a lot more hoops I had to jump through. I had to convince people that what I thought was a good idea was a good idea. And oftentimes I lost those battles. And so I didn't get to make the things I wanted to make. So the plus side is now I'm in full control, but I don't have the resources. So it's interesting.
But and another good thing about the internet, you can connect with other people who can help make your ideas, even if they aren't your original vision, happen. And I was thinking,
that's true.
What was that? What were you, found item thing?
Oh, found object.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I hadn't heard of it before, but it sounds very interesting.
I like.
But you know what keeps popping in my head? Puppets. Who is really good with puppets?
Oh no! Well, I like puppets. I wouldn't say I'm good.
If you can make one and it does things, that's good to me, because dolls are creepy. Or to me. So anything that tries to be alive.
So she just outed me as a puppet fanatic. You said something about Jim Henson.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to know more about this puppet thing. Tell me a little bit more about it.
I just like puppets. So hearing that you work,
he makes them. He makes some puppets.
I have made a puppet.
That is wild.
He's being kind of humble right now.
Yeah, he's a humble one.
He's chock full of indie games, that guy.
Yes.
I worked for Jim Henson for 2 years, and it was the coolest job, one of the coolest jobs I've ever had. We weren't doing much with the Muppets at that point because it was right before Disney bought them back. Or not back, but right before Disney bought the Muppets. And so we kept trying to it was after the show Muppets Tonight. It was between that period. So,
sure.
You know what I mean? So there wasn't anything actively going on with the Muppets, which was a little sad. But they were working on like a Muppet Christmas movie at the time. There was still some cool stuff. But anyway, we did a bunch of commercials every once in a while. So every once in a while, I got to go to a shoot where I'd show up and there'd be a table of lifeless Muppets just lying there.
That would be my Disneyland.
It was amazing, but it was creepy too. And then like Bill Beretta, who ended up being my favorite puppeteer, he did Pepe the King Prawn.
Oh, he's
he's
awesome.
the best. So he's done a bunch of other characters too, but that's his most famous. he is one of the coolest guys in the world, but he came over and got at that time too, because Frank Oz had picked up the Miss Piggy puppet, and like instantly this thing came alive. And it wasn't just that I don't know, man. Like there's some sorcery going on there. It wasn't just, I saw it. It was dead a minute ago. It was just felt. And then it was, flocked felt and some yarn, and then he picked it up, and it was a living thing that was talking to me. That's an amazing ability.
I'm working on it.
Keep thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the next step. Maybe a tank monkey puppet YouTube show.
Oh man,
might be a fun extension of the comic.
I would still want to see a walking, talking Muppet candy corn. How great would that be?
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah. I would nibble on his little head.
Yeah, I've got this. Wow. Okay, tank monkey puppet show. I don't know why that's never occurred to me to recommend to Jesse, but that's like perfect.
It's I would have to me. I don't know.
I would have to build him because I wouldn't be happy with a found puppet.
No,
like alteration.
So, for sure. But that's the fun of it too, though, is the fact that you can look at this thing and go, "I made that. I totally made that."
Oh, true. Yeah. That might have to happen. I don't know what he actually sounds like, though. Like I have other characters.
Oh yeah.
That I have voices for, and I've actually talked to puppeteers about how do you come up with a voice, and I just don't know what he sounds like. But I guess if I spent some more time with it,
As you're building the puppet, I feel like a voice would happen. Like once you start making that thing real, and you know what I mean. Like I think that's going to happen on its own.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. People start talking about stuff, and it's interesting. I'm like, yeah, I want to build a puppet. I don't even like puppets, but I want to build one now.
Welcome to my life.
Creeped out by puppets.
Yeah, that's true.
I was reading the comments on the Critical Hit YouTube video. It was, I think it's the song, and you responded to somebody's comments about the video originally being with goblin puppets.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what would that have looked like?
Oh my God. Okay, so this is scary because this is another one of those things. Like if this had happened the way I envisioned it, it would have been amazing. So the idea was going to be a D&D session, like all like Beastie Boys, gangster rap, Sabotage style video. Like guy with a brown paper bag, the beanie on. He shows up to the secret location, knocks on the door, opens the door, and it's the basement. And the DM screen, and you realize in the bag he just had Mountain Dew Code Red. He's ready to go. And so they're there, and the DM is Will Wheaton. And it's Felicia Day and Will Wheaton and Vin Diesel. That was my dream cast for this video.
Nice. Yeah.
And we're all playing, and as they're describing the actions, it goes into balloon, above their head, like the thought balloon above their head, and all that action is done with puppet versions of Will Wheaton, but in full character. So puppet versions of each of and me, of course, too. So it'd be me and those three people that I mentioned. And we're the D&D party. And it was just going to be this crazy cutting back and forth between this real-time stuff that's happening in the, all gangster style, like, rap out the words. And then the puppets getting hacked up and just red yarn flying everywhere, just like as bloody as possible. Yeah, and that never happened. That was going to be the Critical Hit video.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wish there was like a print button from your head that you just print and then the idea.
No kidding, man.
Wouldn't that be nuts?
Be awesome.
Yeah, so that's the downside of not having the resources that a record label affords you. Although again, like I said, they one of the problems is for a band. I don't know if this happens with other things, but I know my fan base better than any label is going to. Mm-hmm. So when I get, you know what I mean? So I kept finding myself in situations where the label would want to do something or would reject an idea that I had based on the idea that the fans wouldn't like it. And I thought, of course I know them better than you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Why would you think that? So yeah, that video probably wouldn't have happened anyway, just because they wouldn't have seen the vision. Someday. I'll make it someday.
Well, I don't know what you have for time, Pete. We don't want to keep you if you're busy or.
I'm honestly totally fine. I know that you guys. I don't know how long you try to keep your podcast to, and I don't want to give you too much stuff to edit through.
We try to keep it under 4 hours.
Yeah, we do.
Right, no, but I've got time if you wanted to go for a little longer. I'm totally cool. It's up to y'all.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever. I don't have to work tomorrow, so
shall we talk comics then?
Let's talk comics for sure.
So, what are your favorite comics?
Okay, so full disclosure, I don't read comics anymore.
Okay.
I know, sadly, just like D&D, for some reason, I moved past that phase and never really got back into it. So I used to be huge into X-Men. That was my go-to comic. Mm-hmm. And I have I gave them to somebody, but I had a stack of 200 in a row sequential, just a good amount of 80s, most of the 80s, basically. So all the Dark Phoenix stuff, all the Green Solo stuff, just everything.
Chris Claremont run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was my era, and I stopped for a couple years. I guess when I got to college, probably, and I tried to go back, and I didn't know any of the characters anymore. Everything, I just missed a few years, but it was enough time that it was a whole new X-Men. It was a whole new cast, and I was like, oh crap, I'm way off. And so for some reason, I never took the time to learn the new group or to catch up. And so it just got lost to me. What I'm super excited about now is that movies have finally caught up where superhero things have become mainstream, because I'm absolutely loving everything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is putting out. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff that I wouldn't necessarily I loved Iron Man as a character, but I never read his books. I read some Hulk. I read some Spider-Man. I read, a little bit of Captain America. Punisher I got into. I know that's totally separate, but I'm just thinking about the stuff that I read. But I think it was all around that era, and then I stopped. So what's the stuff that you guys are checking out?
A lot of my reading is recent stuff. And I kind of come, it's almost the opposite. And I run into trouble talking to a lot of, longtime comic book fans, because they're like, oh, do you remember this such and such 90s thing? And I'm like, not really. I didn't spend my money on comics when I was a kid.
Right.
But I'm reading a lot of, I don't know, if it's got Batman in it, I'm reading it.
Nice.
Swamp Thing, although there's not a lot that has Swamp Thing in it. And then, some indie stuff, we mentioned Walking Dead earlier. We've been reading that, but also I was reading, I just blew through the entire run up to current of Invincible by Kirkman. What was this?
Robert. Yeah, Robert. I've heard a lot of good stuff about
yes.
About that.
That's what I've been.
Dude, Batman, just a quick note on Batman. There's Arkham Asylum. With Dave McKean, and I forget who the writer was, but Dave McKean did the art of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Graphic novel. That changed my entire view of what a comic book could be. Because previous to that, comics, the art always was very samey. It was all that thick black outline superhero stuff. Mm-hmm. And then this comic came along. It was just visceral and spattery and just moody and interesting and weird. Mm-hmm. I think that was the first comic that really opened my eyes to the other side, the art side of comics, not just the slick illustration side, if that makes sense.
It's just that's the Grant Morrison written.
That's what it is.
We just I want to say 2-3 episodes ago, we just because every month on our main show, we have people kind of listeners will vote on our poll and pick a book, and then we'll read it that month and talk about it in the next episode. We just covered that, and it was a first time read for me, 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
And even now, one of the things I said in that episode was, I've been a Batman reader for a little while now, so I've read a bunch of, there's lots of different kinds of Batman. But even now, reading that, I was like you said, it opened me up to specifically in that case, what you could do with Batman, even. Yeah. Just think of the range of things you can do with that one character. It's so wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great one. Grant Morrison had a comic called Moonshadow too. Did you ever check that out?
I don't think I haven't read that.
It's
one.
John Muth. I think John Muth is the artist. I could be way off on that name, by the way. But it's all watercolor. Like the whole run is like really cool looking watercolor art. Yeah. Anyway, you should check that out. Really, really crazy.
Was that Moonshadow?
Moonshadow. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm always looking for more Grant Morrison. I mean, there's a ton that I know we haven't read, but
yeah. Yeah, and well, I like seemed most of the more artistic stuff that we've read or that I've read, I guess. I don't know why, but it seems like the stories tend to be better too, or not better. Well, maybe because a lot of it it's independent, and that I like independent because they can do what they want to do, and they don't have to stick to the formula and
right,
fit it in with all the other storylines and stuff like that.
Well, it kind of ties into the idea we were talking about earlier about when you're working with a company or a corporation.
Yeah.
You're beholden to their expectations, and indies. And right now in indie comics, there's a lot of great stuff going on.
Oh, so much! It's I can't even keep up, and I read. Well, I mean, I haven't been reading as much now, but so many that I lose track. I have to keep lists of all the great things that I have read and want to keep reading.
Yeah, that brings up an interesting idea. So we have, in the old days, we have curators basically that would tell us what's worth checking out. And as the internet becomes this wide open sea of amazing content, and like you're right, like there are tons of amazing indie comic creators right now that are just really rocking really interesting stories and really like cool signature stylized artwork, and you need someone to tell you what the cool stuff is, what to check out, right? Like you need someone that you trust, sort of.
And I need someone to keep them afloat until they can make a book that I will buy, because that's how I prefer to do it.
You don't get separate issues. You wait until the.
Well,
no, that makes sense.
You are more of a trade waiter.
Yeah.
Mainly because you can't stand to wait a month between.
There you go. That's what I do, man. I wait until the show's done and then I binge. Yeah, I can't. For the same reason, I can imagine a comic would be the same frustration of like, I don't know what happens.
Yeah. Well, that, and also, it in the long run, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So you mentioned you've really been digging like the Marvel movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stuff. This month there's a bunch of exciting things going on in terms of like comic book and superhero TV and movies. Is Daredevil coming back this month, or is that late?
Yeah, March. No, it's March. It's
March.
Hold on.
The 16th.
I think it's like the 13th or 16th. Yeah, something like that.
Oh,
it's
nice.
in a week or two. Yeah, dude, I'm super psyched for that. It's got Punisher.
That's why I wanted to ask. You mentioned you used to read Punisher. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm pretty excited. I watched the first season, binged, of course, and I was so tired, and I kept watching. I couldn't stop watching, but my brain was like, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna watch until he gets the suit. When he gets the suit, I'm gonna go. He never got the freaking suit.
It's the very end of the
last
series.
episode. He gets the suit, so I ended up watching the whole thing. It was like 6 a.m, and I finally went to bed because he got the suit. But yeah, really good. Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Were you guys blown away by that?
Yeah,
I thought that was better than Daredevil.
I didn't even really want to watch it because Randy gave me a little bit of I'd never heard of it, and Randy gave me a little summary, and I was like,
I didn't read Alias.
But because Daredevil was so good, I watched it, and yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. And
so good.
Oh, what's his name?
David Tennant.
Yeah.
It's Kilgrave. What a great bad guy.
Yeah.
I love Luke Cage. I love the idea that he's going to get his own thing.
Yeah.
That actor was awesome. What a great character. Again, I don't remember Luke Cage from the books, so just this is opening me up to a bunch of guys that I didn't really. Oh, so anyway, Jesse, continue, man. You were going to say. So, in addition to Daredevil, what else? I mean, Civil War's coming out next month or something, right?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, and this is not Marvel Cinematic, but how are your feelings on? You might not even be into Batman at all, but Batman v Superman.
I'm very into Batman. Okay, so here's my thing. No, Batman was my favorite. Batman and Wolverine were on opposite sides of the the DC Marvel split, but equally important in my life. I loved the Michael Keaton Batman. That's still my favorite. Like,
yeah,
a huge Batman fan. Okay, so I've only seen a little bit. I gotta say, when they announced Batman versus Superman, initially I was like, over it, don't care. And then I saw some stuff that made me go, okay, this could be pretty cool. I'm a little sad that it keeps getting rebooted in the sense that it's not connected to the Christian Bale universe, it's not connected to the Nolan universe at all. So it's a new thing altogether. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm going to reserve judgment till I see it. It could be really cool. I didn't hate the two Supermans. Was it two or one? No, there were two, right?
Well, there was one.
Man of Steel, Superman Returns and then Man of Steel.
Yeah, I mean, Man of Steel was kind of the reboot, so...
That was the reboot with Henry Cavill, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so there's only one. Okay. Okay. I didn't hate that the way that everybody else hated it. I didn't love it. It wasn't, fantastic, but I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely I'm not a Ben Affleck hater either, so I'm totally curious. I mean, he's at least looks the most like a Bruce Wayne in the sense that Bruce Wayne was a good-looking playboy, right?
Yeah.
So Christian Bale and Michael Keaton kind of didn't make sense in that world anyway.
Yeah, true.
Christian Bale's pretty good looking, sorry, but
no, that's true. But I mean, they made more sense as Batman and less sense as Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whereas I feel like Ben Affleck makes tons of sense as Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. Now let's just see if he can pull the Batman stuff off. Right. You were talking about Randy. You were talking about the Grant Morrison Batman that we both loved, and how they were able to explore such range. I've been reading a lot about that idea of in the film Batman versions, all the different people that I've had a chance to explore that character, and they keep focusing on, I would have gone darker, I would have gone crazy, he's such a tormented, twisted character, and it got me a little bit come on, that's not what's interesting necessarily about him. Mm-hmm. What's the same way that Tony Stark, that makes him real, and that's cool. But if you just get more and more drunken and debaucherous with him, you get less and less interesting. What's interesting is how he rises above that to become a hero. And I feel the same way about Batman. It's not super interesting that he's this tormented, orphan who never got over that, and he's got issues, and he puts on this costume basically to bring out the monster side of him. That's kind of interesting, but that's only interesting as the backdrop to here's a guy that is really making a change, is trying to do good, is trying to be a hero and step up. So I'm a little sad when I hear people talk about wanting to play up that aspect and not wanting to play up the heroes side of it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our last.
And then have you seen Arrow? Oh, sorry. Good.
No, I was just going to say our last podcast, we were just discussing that Batman should not be rated R ever because they need it. He's kind of a dark character, but it's much more positive, and that's what people.
Yeah, you don't have to take that angle.
Right.
You can still play on.
I have a hard time.
I agree. He doesn't kill people. I mean, he's made a
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There shouldn't be a world where kids can't see a Batman movie.
Right.
I know, that would be sad. Speaking of rated R, though, do you guys love Deadpool?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the most enthusiastic I've heard Melanie on the show in a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was drinking, and I love Ryan Reynolds anyway, and I was super excited for it, and it was great. It met all my expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody was going to say something.
Yeah, I interrupted. I'm sorry.
I think we all forgot.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's right. I was just going to mention Arrow, the TV show Arrow.
Oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started watching that, I was like, "Holy crap, this is a better Batman."
Yeah,
than what I've seen on film. Not in comics, but it was the best Batman of the film universe that I'd seen.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of balancing both sides of that, he did a perfect job of his Oliver Queen, that version of Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Balancing against the Batman vigilante aspect of him being Arrow as well. Yeah, I thought
he was definitely more of a Bruce Wayne than, and I haven't read a lot of Green Arrow in the comics, but He was definitely
Me neither.
more of a Bruce Wayne than an Oliver Queen that I had read. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Mhm.
You mean the show turned him more into a Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess, although it is, I mean, the show took a more serious tone, though. And Oliver Queen seems, like, the comics do get serious, but the little bit I've read, it seems like he still has fun sometimes.
Yeah, he
Okay.
definitely got a sense of humor, but it depends, I think, on when you read him too, because
Yeah, that's true.
his character in the comic book evolved a lot too.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, in the show they steered away from that entirely. They made him extremely like,
They
holy
definitely
crap, man, you've had a crappy life.
They definitely did want to do a Batman show and just
Totally.
couldn't. So
Well,
they
especially
went
with
to
the League of Assassin, like bringing Ra's al Ghul in,
Uh-huh.
like it became very obvious this was them trying to be Batman for TV,
yeah, it's like
which Gotham is doing, isn't it?
yeah,
Or that's like young Batman. It's the Batman pre-begins.
yeah. It's
pre-pubescent Batman. It really is. Oh man.
Sorry, Jesse. What were you gonna say?
Oh, no. But we've been really. I'm going to take this opportunity, though. Have you been watching The Flash at all? Then
Yes. Okay. So here's what happened.
Good.
Mhm.
Everybody told me I need to watch The Flash. Everybody said it's fantastic. So I put Flash on. The first episode of Flash, he meets Green Arrow. So I'm like, well, hold up. I'm gonna have to watch
Okay.
Green Arrow. And there's a million more seasons of Green Arrow than there is of Flash.
Yeah, we
And
can't.
then
keep
it started crossovering. So I started hopping back and forth to make sure I got the crossovers. Sorry, you gonna say what? You can't keep.
We can't even keep up with the Green Arrows, but we try to so that we can keep up with Arrow.
But
Yep.
but
no,
hey,
I feel like I want to make sure I'm on
You
target
know-
with both of them.
you know, we're truly finally getting accurate adaptations of comic books on TV when you have to do the crossover complaint.
Yeah.
Totally. No, I think you're right. I think this could not have happened years ago. The audience was not there for it. The fact that superheroes have crossed over into the mainstream now in such a fantastic way means you can have shows like this where you can. I mean, the idea of a cinematic universe, whether that's literally on film or on TV, was unheard of. That could never have happened before. Like, what? How would you possibly share actors and share storylines and have people appear in there? I'm so excited for the ability of larger content to be told this way. I'm not caught up with Flash. I am not, whatever the current season is now, I haven't started because it's on what is it on? Hulu?
Yeah, Hulu. Yeah, they do that thing where you can catch it the day after it airs, but they only hold like the previous 4 or 5 episodes at a time.
Oh no, I could have. If I was faster.
Yeah.
I missed my chance, right?
Yeah.
I missed
Not
my
as
window.
fast as Flash.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm not as fast as Flash. Okay, can I just tell you something that pet peeves me a little bit about that?
Yeah.
He's super, super fast, like faster than anything possible. But there are some bad guys, like the smoky guy, like, hey, I'm going to turn into a green gas. Like, how is that guy faster than there's certain bad guys that out fast him sometimes in weird ways. That really bothers me. Do you guys have this problem, or is it just me?
No, I do. I really enjoy The Flash. I like the show. I think it overcomes its CW-ness better than like Arrow does. But there are so many times where I'm like, you get him, Flash. What are you doing?
Totally.
Yeah.
You're the fastest thing in the freaking universe, and you can't stop that guy.
And like, there's scenes like, I think it's in the first season where Captain Cold's he's like standing there with the gun or whatever, and it's like, Flash, you can like take that gun out of his hand before he has a time to
he won't even
chance to
be able
blink.
to blink.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no.
Yet he fires the whole shot off and freezes Flash's feet or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
They definitely struggle. I mean, maybe they don't struggle. Maybe they're just like, yeah, we know, we don't care. But they definitely run into that problem of like, yeah, we know he's this powerful, but it's hard writing.
Yeah.
But you know what though? It's not hard writing. And here's the thing. This is the problem I had with that Superman movie too. You get to a point where it's two equally matched bad guys smashing each other through buildings, right? That's not interesting. So what I loved about the original Christopher Reeve Supermans was the bad guys would put people in peril. So then Superman he wasn't just fighting the bad guy, he was fighting the bad guy and stopping the disaster from happening to the good people. So I feel like it's an easy solution. You just have the bad guys, the reason that they're bad guys and the reason that they're tough for Flash to deal with is they don't care about human life. They're going to put human life in danger, and the problem is Flash does. So he's going to spend most of his time blocking and saving. Do you know what I mean? Like don't make it a one-on-one fight because that's not accurate. Like like we just said, that's not going to be a problem for the Flash if they write him properly, right? So to write it properly, the bad guys shouldn't be doing that. The bad guys should be doing what they do best, do bad stuff to people, civilians, and then let the Flash have to deal with that while trying to knock the bad guy out. I think that would be a lot more believable and interesting.
I think you definitely nailed it 100% there, because in the there will be a few times where they'll put him in a situation where it's like, ooh, how's he gonna? And it is those type of situations where it's not just him fighting a guy. You've got it. Yeah, and the comics have been handling it that way for years. Like they figured that out a while ago. And yeah, I think you're 100% correct. Like I kind of wish they would.
They need to turn into Jackie Chan. You can't just be in a tournament all the time. You got to fight 14 guys at once.
No, that is a great metaphor. It's the wrong word, but yeah, absolutely. Jackie Chan. Okay, I watched a thing recently. There's this YouTube series about. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's a YouTube series about filmmaking specifically, and it covered all of Jackie Chan's films, and it talked about the difference between his films in China and his films here in the United States, and it dealt a lot with that. The fact that what makes him such a interesting character and fun to watch is he's the underdog in most situations, and he always has a disadvantage. He's always either fighting too many people, or he doesn't have a weapon, and they all do, and he's got to like take his jacket off. There's always something like that, which that's what he does to equalize it. And so, and then when that shift happens where he finally does get the upper hand, it's exciting, and we like to watch that. Otherwise, yeah, we can't watch somebody who's clearly better than everybody the whole time. Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry, that just got me on thinking about that.
Yeah, it's good.
He's kind of a master. No, he's a master for a lot of reasons, and I think that's one of them. Is he's figured that out, like how to make that interesting to watch.
Yeah, well,
I have this Bruce Lee song, "Enter the Dragon." Jesse, you know that one, right?
Yep.
And it was just the idea that all these guys are going to attack Bruce Lee one at a time, like the ridiculousness of dealing with those kinds of action scenes. And I think in a lot of movies in recent times, we've sort of stepped that up a little bit and come up with more believable ways. Like in the Bourne Identity movies, for example, like he's taking out a bunch of guys and I believe it. It looks like, he just knows how to handle himself, versus they just couldn't figure it out back then. So they had to wait their turn.
Right.
Yeah. Chuck Norris is going to wait until
why would he
everybody else is gone first, so
exactly.
that Bruce Lee can pull his chest hairs out of his chest. Yeah.
I'll just wait until he's tired. Maybe he'll get tired. I don't know why I gave Chuck Norris like a British accent.
I don't think he said a lot in that movie, so
he didn't say.
He really didn't. No.
My chest hair. Yeah.
What are you excited about right now? Like, what's going on that's got you excited? Either something you're working on, or just anything else.
There's a lot. There's a lot coming out that I'm super excited about. Like I said, the most recent trailer for Captain America: Civil War got me so choked up, dude. When he's like, if there's any other way, but he's my friend, and Tony Stark's like, I was your friend.
I was your friend too. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, the feels. So like, I'm
so emotional.
Seriously, it's like the girliest superhero movie of all time. I can't wait for it. I cannot wait. So I'm super excited about that. I'm definitely. I'm actually excited about Walking Dead tonight. Like, I'm excited to wait till midnight to be able to see that. Crap. Hold on. Sorry. There's other stuff. I'm excited about catching back up with Flash and Daredevil. I'm excited for Daredevil to come back on. I'm hoping they make another season for Jessica Jones because I'm excited about that. I am excited for the new DLC from Fallout 4. I want it, so I've got nothing to do. So I'm waiting for stuff to come out.
Yeah, me too. I definitely.
Are you in the same boat?
There's still a lot of stuff I'm sure I could do, but I played through the main storyline. I've built tons of settlements. And I got to a point where I'm like, I want to play the game, but then I'll jump in it and I'll be like, man, I've already put... the save file says I've put over 7 days straight into it, so maybe I'll find something else to do.
That's exactly my problem. I love it so much, but I go, man, I should be doing something more constructive in my time. I don't want to give any spoilers away for people that haven't played the game yet, but is there a way you can tell me which thing you've chosen? Because I feel like I chose poorly. And I have to live with this decision.
Okay.
In terms of the ending, do you feel good about what you chose?
I mean,
that way.
Not really.
maybe all endings are that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, there's definitely a fork, right?
Yeah.
Like, regardless how many factions they are in there that you can kind of do things with, there's definitely a fork. And I'm not sure how the one way goes, but I have a feeling neither decision makes you feel particularly good. But
yeah.
But I can.
No, I agree. Because you have to turn your back on one group of friends, basically.
Yeah.
And that's tough. So I'm not going to spoil anything. So I'm being very cryptic about how I say this.
Okay.
But I made my decision, and I feel like I chose poorly. So I had to go down, and there was one of my old groups that I liked, that I enjoyed, was in the way of a mission, and the guy said, "You have to eliminate them." And it was like, "Oh my god, no, I can't. Wait, what? I have to go outside and kill these people? Like, these are my buds, right?" Okay. So you know, kind
I do. I know where you're at. Yep. So I ran and aggroed some beasties and brought them back and let them fight for a little bit. And then I had the Minutemen drop some, what do you call it? Artillery?
Artillery. Like, I did everything I could to let something else eliminate them. And I got everybody except the last dude of like 15 or whatever. And I ran out of every other option. And I had to just shotgun him in the face. It was terrible. I felt horrible.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Well, how did you solve that situation?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I had got to a point where you have to make a decision. But up to that point, I played friendly enough with everybody to where there was that one mission where basically everybody's fighting each other.
Yeah.
And I was friendly with everybody, so I could literally just walk right through this battlefield. And they were all just fighting each other. Nobody came after me. I just had to make sure. I just had to make sure I didn't get hit by a rogue grenade. But then, yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. I gotta say, I was like, I've done it right so far. But I did have to make a decision, and okay, I'll say this. I think I went with this decision that seemed like it was better for the greater good in the more immediate time.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Okay, how crazy is that a video game put both of us in that position?
Right? Yeah.
Where we had to consider the greater good of a fictional world.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
And you know, you could, and that could even mean different things, because you could be like, well, the greater good down the road.
Oh, totally. I'm sure I'd love to off camera find out what you chose, you know? So maybe like tweet me or something, or I don't know how you can. Yeah, but I'd love to, or email me or whatever, but I'd love to find out, because I have a feeling we picked different things.
Okay, yeah, I think so too.
But we had the same reasons. Okay.
Melanie's sitting here. We're as soon as we're looking to upgrade Melanie's computer, then she can play Fallout 4. Right now, she's Skyrimming it up, but
God, I'm so jealous.
She's waiting on an
Back
upgrade.
into Skyrim, dude. That's my. Talk about things looking forward to. The thing that I'm looking forward to that isn't actually happening yet is whatever the next Elder Scrolls is going to be. Like, can we please have that? I need it. Like, I love Fallout, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm always going to prefer a fantasy environment.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I love post-apocalyptic. I really do. And I love zombies, and not the Fallout zombies, although they kind of do with the rules, but you know what I mean? But yeah, for some reason, I just like feeling like I'm running around in Lord of the Rings like that. Nothing's going to trump that.
And it seems like there's more to do, but that might just be me.
In Skyrim versus Fallout?
Yeah.
I feel like it too. I feel like there's a little bit, you know what? They're getting better at this, but those kinds of open world role playing games always make you feel like you're running errands for people. And that's kind of annoying, because you're like, I'm kind of a big deal. I don't know if you know, I kill dragons. And like, I'm going to pick up some pumpkins for you. Like, wait, what's happening? I would love for them to fix that eventually. Like, come up with believable quests that feel like quests and not like grocery shopping.
Yeah.
That could be a great game too. Just grocery shopping.
No, they have that game on like Facebook now.
Oh, and it's not a great game.
No.
Have either of you guys played Have any of you guys played Firewatch? You know about it?
Oh, is that recent? I think I've heard something about it. I haven't played it.
Came out. Oh, okay. Yeah, my friend Rich Summer, the guy that was in Final Object Theater with me, the guy from Mad Men, he's the lead. He plays the called Firewatch, which is a very indie game. It's a step up from this whole genre called walking simulators, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a step up from that, but it is essentially it's more like an interactive story than it is like a full on free will video game that you have a lot of control over. And I'm not super into those. Like I want a world, just like we talked about, like Fallout and Skyrim, where you can go anywhere, you can do the missions in any order, like you're in control. I love that. I don't like games that feel like I'm on a rail as much, but having said that, it's a really cool one of those where you are discovering this relationship between these two characters as you're moving through this really kind of creepy things start happening, and you're trying to figure out like you're being watched, but it's just weird. Yeah, there's some weird. Anyway, it's a very interesting indie game that happens to have my friend in it.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
That's why I bring it up.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I've definitely been hearing things about it. That it's excellent. And like you said, walking simulator interactive story, but it's really good.
I'm not sure what that is. Is that like Stanley Parable type stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where yeah, exactly. The game your main interaction is just walking through these events.
Okay.
It's a walking simulator.
Exactly. Yeah. Or did you play Everybody's Gone to the Rapture? That's another example of those.
I haven't played that one.
No, but that sounds
Oh,
awesome.
okay.
It sounds good, yeah.
It's again, the problem is if you play it, like the world is gorgeous. Like the area that you are actually running around in is so cool. And I just wish there was, again, I wish it was more like Skyrim or Fallout where there were like missions to do in this place rather than I'm literally just going from conversation to conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool way to tell a story, but I want something more.
I want a game with smaller hills that I can just frickin' walk over instead of having to climb mountains all the time.
I love it. I play Skyrim the same way I play Grand Theft Auto. I just run and jump off whatever mountain. I take whatever shortcut I can, and then I die. I die horribly every time.
I try
It's
not
terrible.
to because sometimes I scare myself and then I scream out loud and then Randy freaks out because he thinks I'm being murdered or something.
She does.
I do.
It's like, okay, you'll hear like the startled scream, like, whoo! You get screams of terror coming from her when she's playing video games.
Yeah.
Well, there are dragons.
Well, it's actually usually not even dragons. It's the startles, the cow falling on my head.
In Minecraft was one of the worst. Minecraft would horrify her.
Because I would be busy doing something, and then all of a sudden, cows falling on my head and stuff.
It was a cow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's terrifying. If you were out in the world and a cow fell on your head, that would be like the worst thing ever.
Probably be the last thing you ever saw, too.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be utterly terrible.
Oh.
That's perfect way to end the show. Then I don't know what is.
Well, if Jesse wasn't going to jump on that pun, I was going to do it.
Oh, yeah. Well done, sir. Well done.
Where can people find you? Patreon, Twitter, websites, all that.
So I go by DasPetey, DASPETEY, and that's that same username on everything. So daspetey.com, Twitter /DasPetey, Facebook /DasPetey. Yeah, everything is DasPetey. And I like I said, I just finished these albums. I'm about to put my first one out probably in a month and a half.
Oh, nice. Exciting.
So I'll be
awesome
putting on. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm hoping. You got to be honest with me, you're a Kings fan. You got to be honest about the transition because I'm very nervous about losing people as I move into the new thing. I want to know the truth. Okay,
I'm confident that you're going to do well because, like your ballads on No More Kings are solid. I mean, like it's all solid. So I'm sure that you put yourself into this, it's going to be awesome.
Right on. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I hope you're right. So I'm going to be putting out a lot of content basically leading up to that launch. And then hopefully, 6 to 8 weeks, that album will be out.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Also, okay. Critical Hit, we kind of touched on it. What's the URL for Critical Hit?
It's Oh Yeah Critical Hit, all one word.
Yes.
.tumblr.com. I think I will make it criticalhit.com at some point and then point to the Tumblr, but right now it's a Tumblr-based site. Yeah, that's weekly, every Friday. Every Friday that updates.
And you have to sing
And I
it
have
when you
no
sing it.
idea what I'm going to do this week. And you have to sing it when you watch it.
Yep. You have to be like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got to actually type that in. That Tumblr.
Well, awesome, man. This has been great talking to you.
Yeah, I had lots of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, guys. This really has been a blast.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To hear more, visit grawlixpodcast.com, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/grawlixpodcast, and like us on Twitter, twitter.com/grawlixpodcast.
So you can maybe get used to voices. I'm Randy, one of the. We're all hosts. We're all hosts, so we just kind of all jump in and, don't feel like we're ganging up on you.
Yes, and I.
Okay.
We're not an actual gang.
No.
No.
Now that's a mistake. You guys should probably remedy that.
Yeah. We should get
Maybe
matching shirts and start making up snaps.
I was going to say, we do have matching jackets, but yes.
And then Melanie.
I'm Melanie. I'm the female. I am not Jesse impersonation.
No. Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
And I'm Jesse.
Jesse. What's up, man?
Not much.
Hi,
Pete.
Hi, Pete.
This is starting well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel no awkward pauses are going to happen here.
No. Get them all out up front.